Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Sean. Welcome to the final class in our People's University Climate Change series. And it's all been about what can we still do about reversing climate change, if anything. So we had a few scientists from West Virginia University. Many of you saw the first 4 classes. But I thought we'd end on a more positive, hopeful note. So I invited some young people that were referred to me by other people I know. And so the first I'm going to introduce Mr. Rob Bilott.
Hi.
He's an attorney. If you know the film Dark Waters, that's based on the work he did. And so we're going to ask him what it was like to have Mark Ruffalo portray you. But before we do that, we're going to bring up a young man. Well, first of all, I'm going to mention the fact that this Saturday, the whole reason we're doing this is because of Wheeling Reads. And the book we chose this year is Jennifer Haig's Heat and Light, which is about fracking in western Pennsylvania. Jennifer will be here this Saturday at 4 p.m. And we have brochures on your tables. 3 workshops prior to that, and a Wheeling Writes presentation where several people, writers from Wheeling, will read some of their work for you. That will be the first event. So I hope some of you are able to make it to that. And as I was saying, I have our partner from the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia, Dr. Christina Fizanic, is going to introduce our first guest. So here's Christine.
You know, I'm thinking after a decade, he'll finally say my last name right. It's Fizanic, like the hedgehog.
You've told me that a million times.
Anyways, I had to use it. So our first presenter tonight is somebody I've known since he was 3 years old when he went to school with my son Tristan, who was also here. And Zane Murray, I'm really proud of you and how much work you have put into this initiative, not just for yourself and your own achievement, but also for all of us in the state of West Virginia. So let me tell you a little bit about Zane. He is 11. Are you still 11, Zane?
11, close to 12.
Close to 12, almost 12. But when he was very much still 11, he met with and interviewed attorney Rob Bilott at his law office in Covington, Kentucky in December of 2022 for a school project on PFAS, which are per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or forever chemicals, right? They're things that once they're in our bodies and our waterways, they never go away. They're permanent. And Attorney Bilott, of course, is joining us on Zoom as well. So, Zane, you want to come up and talk about your work, all the things that you've done?
Sure. Excuse me. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Zane, and I would like to start this with periodic table jokes, because, yeah, I just want to get warmed up. So, does anybody want to hear a joke about sodium?
Yes. Yes.
Nah. What did gold say to the periodic table? Hey, you, come over here. All right, that's all my jokes. My name is Zane Murray, and I started my investigation, or, well, that's what I would call it, on PFAS about 2 years ago. Right after I watched the movie Dark Waters, which was the story about Rob Bilott and Wilbur Tennant. And it made me want to start investigating what this PFAS is, and I decided to help. And throughout my investigation, I got to meet Rob Bilott. I don't know if you can see me or not, but
okay. Put your face by the camera.
And And I also met the delegate of Monongalia County, I believe. I'm not good with names, so I'm trying to remember. Evan Hansen. And he, and that's the beginning, I guess.
All right.
So first of all, I'll just tell Wilbur Tennant's story. Wilbur Tennant was a farmer in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and
It's okay.
Yeah, we're
all
for
friends
you.
here.
We're here for you.
Just take some deep breaths.
I've been doing awesome.
and his cows were dying, and his cows and his family drank from the waters of Dry Run Creek, which is right next to a landfill that was meant to be only for office waste. And he decided, since he only farmed really cows, he decided to call the EPA and wanted to know what was in this, but they didn't listen. He decided to call DuPont, who owned the landfill. They didn't listen. The only person who listened was Rob Bilott, and he's on the call with us. So, and he went down to Wilbur Tennant's farm, and he looked around, and he knew something was definitely wrong. So he decided to actually do the case, but one of the reasons that he did it was because his grandmother made the referral, and after going through rooms and rooms of documents, he found that PFOA was a chemical that DuPont was manufactured by 3M, but used by DuPont and other companies to make sorts of, to use and stuff. And after rooms and rooms of documents, he found out that this was a carcinogen, and it was harmful to animals and humans. Anyways, there was he ended up settling the case, and then he went on to represent, in 2002, the Parkersburg, West Virginia, because they were poisoned, of course.
Should we have Mr. Bilott say something about?
Yeah, probably.
Well, you just take a break.
Need water? You good?
What did you think of? Go ahead. What did you think of Zane?
Yeah, well, that was terrific. And thank you so much for inviting me to participate tonight. It's great to see Zane again and his family and all of you there. And I'll tell you, Mr. Tennant would be very proud to hear this story being repeated by somebody in this generation, and seeing that somebody has been inspired to dig into facts and to dig into the story here. And that's what started all of this, was one person who decided to use me now as a project, that there's something that needs to be investigated here.
Thanks.
Something is not working the way it's supposed to. And despite all the odds, and despite all the opposition from his neighbors, from everybody around him, he did it anyway. And he took it on, and that's now led us to understanding these chemicals that Mr. Tennant first stumbled upon back in, the mid-1990s are now being found in the drinking water, the soil, the groundwater, the air, all over the planet, and are virtually contaminating the blood of almost every living person now on the planet. And because of the activities of Mr. Tennant and other individuals in the community who were persistent and decided to take this on, that contamination is now finally being made known worldwide. And we're seeing the laws change. We're seeing that real action is being taken now because of the determination of people in the community. And I'm so encouraged to see Zane and others taking this on and being inspired to do something similar. Again, I think Mr. Tennant and everybody knows thank you for inviting me to be here tonight.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And, well, I'll explain what PFAS is. And I do have a model of it somewhere. Oh, there it is. So, this is only a certain kind of PFAS. It's PFOA, the one that was found in River Tennant's water. Now, this is this is what it would probably look like. So, it's got 8 fluorines, I believe. No, wait, it's carbons. And it has 16 fluorines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 15. 15 fluorines. And 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. And, well, that's really what PFAS is. But what it does is it is used in non-stick things like your clothing, also used in food packaging like, say, popcorn bags. They have PFAS in them, which surprised me because I love popcorn. And but
You want to show them on the camera?
oh, okay.
The model?
Model 18, 2, 1.
Impressive.
They cause cancer and other diseases, as I talked about. And now I'll tell you my story. I already told you that I first watched Dark Waters. Well, I did a social studies project, and there's my billboard showing how bad it is, and that's when I met Mr. Bilott, because me and my family decided to email Mr. Bilott because we wanted to interview him so I could use that in my project. And I ended up going over there and seeing him, and he helped a lot in my project by just telling me that I needed to spread the word and gave me encouragement. So he helped a lot. But then he also told me to spread the word of River Tennant. And I thought I should take it another step. So I decided to send a letter to all the representatives in West Virginia and in I believe the United States of America, most of the big representatives and all that stuff. But one of them that actually wrote back, there were a few, was Levin Hansen, and he he told me about how he's going to send out a bill to Congress, and he did it the year prior, but it did not get passed. And after he sent back the letter, we called him and he told me about what the bill was going to do and how it will be done. And it was named the PFAS Protection Act, and it is now in action today. And that's really where my story so far has ended, but it will continue. And
That must have been a really powerful letter, Zane. Do you have it with you?
oh yeah,
Tell us about it.
I do have it.
That's fantastic. Awesome.
This is the letter that I wrote to the representatives. Dear Representative, my name is Zane Murray. I'm an 11-year-old student in 5th grade at Steenrod Elementary. I was born in West Virginia and I live in Wheeling, West Virginia. Last year I watched the movie Dark Waters, which told the story of Will Lieutenant getting his family and cattle poisoned by DuPont. People should know more about this. The movie scared me and made me mad. I was lucky enough to interview Will Lieutenant's lawyer, Rob Bilott, who said I should share the story with people to help. But I wanted to do more. Although I am not of voting age and I am not currently a taxpayer, I believe my voice is important for West Virginia's future because the people my age are its future. West Virginia is the place where forever chemicals like PFAS were first discovered to contaminate the air, land, and water. Many states and the federal government are taking steps to limit the amount of contamination of PFAS in the environment, but not West Virginia. It is mind-blowing that my representatives have done little to nothing to protect me, a child. People's lives are more important than money. I did not give permission to DuPont or any other company to put these chemicals in our air, land, and water, let alone in my blood. I did not ask for a lifetime exposure to PFAS. I'm asking you to help me and the next generation by limiting further exposure of PFAS to the citizens of this state. I am asking you to help clean up these chemicals in the air, land, and water. I'm asking you to enact regulations that limit the amount of PFAS in water in the state of West Virginia. Will you please help us? Thank you so much for your time. Sincerely, Zane Murray. And that's the letter that I wrote.
Very good.
Did that help them pass a law in West Virginia?
Yeah, it did, but it was only a first step. And I'll let Mr. Bilott explain that.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a first step. It's an important step. As you indicated, this is where this story really originated for the entire world. It's here in West Virginia, and it is mind-blowing to think that here we are, in the year 2023, and it's one of the few states left in the country that still really hasn't done anything about PFAS chemicals. No state regulations for what's allowed in the drinking water or the soil. Other states have been doing that for years, but we're still waiting for that to happen. So I really applaud your efforts. That's terrific. That's what it takes. And I'll tell you, that's what we saw with the film, Dark Waters, is getting the story out to people, helping spread that information. That's what makes the real change, is when people start talking about this and start demanding that the people who have the ability to do something, the people that have the ability to change the laws, that share that story with them. And when they sit down and they look at it and they see these facts, I think it all becomes pretty clear what needs to be done. So I really applaud your efforts. That's fantastic. And I really, I would love to see more young folks get involved the way you did. So thank you. Thanks for watching.
You're welcome.
Any questions for this young man?
Oh, any questions?
I have a question.
if they're forever chemicals, how do we get rid of them?
Oh, well, there's only really one. There is a university that figured out a way to break them down, and they do actually have filters that you send them, and they filter your water out with almost all the PFAS they can, because there's over 12,000 different types. 12,000. And I did use a test to test my water, and it only covered 60. So it won't completely get rid of all of them, but
How bad was the water that you tested? Was it good, really?
it was 400 times the, well, PFOA, the one that I mentioned earlier, was over 400%, 400 times the legal, not the legal, the EPA's limit at the time. 400 times. And 3 other ones were 85 times the limit.
And that's our water that we're drinking here in the morning.
Yeah, our water. And also probably in other places too.
And to keep in mind, the scary part now is what US EPA is now saying about some of these, particularly PFOA, the one we were focused on in the film dark waters, the one that was going out into the Ohio River here outside of Parkersburg. According to US EPA, the actual maximum contaminant level guideline from a health standpoint, how much should you want in the water from a health standpoint, because EPA now views it as a carcinogen, 0. In other words, if you can detect it at all, it's too high. So it's just really mind-blowing to know this is still going on, and it's still being found in the water, still being in the Ohio River. So it really takes people speaking out against about it. So again, this is exactly what you need to do.
Rob, maybe, I got a question for you, maybe you could help out with. I see where a lot of these states are getting hundreds of millions of dollars now that they're suing DuPont and 3M. Is that money actually being used to fix the issue?
I think I'm having a little trouble here, but I think you were referring to some of the recent settlements that were.
Yes, I just read that's
Yeah, I mean,
settlements that are going on.
So far, really the only people who's been compensated for any sort of injury to themselves, for cancer or something like that, was the community outside of Parkersburg. Those are the lawsuits we started many, many years ago. And there's been about $750 million recovered for those folks. That's just that community. Now, across the rest of the country, companies are still fighting, not necessarily paying any of these other folks. And what's happened now is there have been recent settlements announced with drinking water systems. So, for example, you may have seen there was a recent settlement announced with both 3M and another one with DuPont and the spinoff Chemours, about $13.6 billion that these companies are now committing to allocate towards helping get this out of the water. So to address what Zane was just talking about, putting in these systems that can actually filter the stuff out of the water. Now, nobody has really started addressing the bigger problem. How do you get it out of the Ohio River? How do you get it out of the groundwater? How do you get it out of the soil? How do you get it out of us? So, unfortunately, I think this litigation is going to continue because the companies are still fighting responsibility.
And I do have one more thing to say. There are ways to actually help get rid of this stuff, and some of them are like you should probably companies that are doing this and tell them to make better decisions. Like, say you own a small business or a bigger business, try and limit the amount of PFAS that you are using, so there's less PFAS in the world, and That's one of my main suggestions. Also, you can go online. There are websites that tell you what, like, water people, places, water companies have not bought or made filters for their water so they clear of PFAS. And there are a few brands on there that you might probably want to look out for if you like to buy bottled water. You can purchase a filter like I was talking about earlier. I know of one that was created by a university, and they actually break the chemical down after you put in the filter. You send it back, they break it down, and some of the money goes to the college, and some of it goes to, I believe, trying to get everything cleaned up. So I think if you were to use a filter, though, that would be my number one recommendation, because the money is helping clean it out, and it breaks it down in the process. So I think it's really good. So that's really all I have to say.
Good.
Oh, my Mr. Bilott, I guess. Thank you.
Thanks so much, folks. It was a pleasure talking with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so to introduce our next guest, I'm going to have his sister come up here, who works here at the library. This is Ellie.
Hi, I'm Ellie McGregor. Our grandfather and great-grandfather and great-grandfather were born here in Wheeling, but my brother and I were born in Los Angeles, and so he's zooming in today. He's a climatology major at San Jose State University, and he's really well known in the climate activism groups. He's close friends with Greta Thunberg and has helped throw climatology marches and things in Los Angeles. He's been interviewed by a lot of the major news networks, and so he's kind of a big deal. And he's going to talk about his work, what he does, how he stays inspired, and I'll let you take it away, Rob.
All right, thank you. Well, I first want to begin by applauding Zane for all of his hard work in protecting the local waterways in that part of the country. I was reading an article about him earlier today, and it mentioned how one of the products that we can find some of these chemicals is things like popcorn bags. And the average person, in fact, most people would just avoid the popcorn bags. But Zane went above and beyond, and he decided that he does not want to have these dangerous chemicals in our waterways that bring about cancer for so many folks. And I applaud that, because people who go above and beyond to protect their communities are the true heroes that we don't often give enough recognition. So, Zane, I hope you continue to work hard, and I expect some even greater things from you in the future. I've lived here in Los Angeles. My siblings live there in Wheeling, West Virginia. I haven't had the chance to go out and visit them quite yet, but I'm hoping to at some point soon. Every single day for the past nearly 5 years, I've been going out to my local hiking trail, whether it's not here in Los Angeles or when I'm at school in the Bay Area, to clean up the trash that's left behind out there. And I'm usually extremely thorough with my work. I don't like to clean up huge areas where I can't handle everything. I like to keep my place that I keep clean very small. But I found thousands, tens of thousands of pounds of trash that is sitting out here, and in some cases in our own waterways. Things like plastics and styrofoam, doggy bags, propane tanks, all sorts of things that we really do not want in either our natural areas or chemicals that we don't want in our waterways. I found paint thinner on occasion in the creek bed that flows into our reservoir that we use for drinking water. And to pull stuff like that out makes me feel both sad and also very proud, because so often I feel as though a lot of people want to do something about all the environmental crises we face, but they just don't know where to start. And so I think folks like Zane and myself who do our best to show others what we're doing to help improve the health of our planet are fantastic, and I hope to see more of that in the future.
try to show the video you sent us, so just give us a second here.
All right. If you'd like to ask me questions as well, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to throw some questions at you. Hang on.
Okay.
It doesn't have sound, right?
No, at the end of it has sound, yes, but
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can. I don't know if you can see it, but we can.
Yeah. So this video is a time lapse of me cleaning up huge piles of trash out in the Angeles National Forest in Southern California. This particular national forest is extremely popular. Millions of people visit it every single year. There's large creek beds, hiking trails. People go skiing in the mountains as well. And unfortunately, all of this use has resulted in a ton of trash being left out there. And I'm serious, this is the middle of the national forest. There's nothing but roads within 20 miles, even though we're in Los Angeles County. And this particular location I'm cleaning up is a floodplain. Although it looks like a forest, the bottom actually floods onto the pavement. And if that trash is not picked up, it flows once again into our reservoirs for drinking water here in Los Angeles. So originally, earlier today, I've been calling on the Angeles National Forest to hire to clean up trash that is sitting in these spaces, because adding signs for sake of littering or adding additional trash cans can only be
This is a mountain of traffic. This is the south side of the area and the end zone.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Is the video playing?
It's over. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
We're back to you.
All right.
Who has a question for Rob?
Let's go with Zane.
Is that your YouTube channel?
Yes, it is my YouTube channel. I post a few cleanup videos on occasion whenever I have really long ones. In addition to my daily trash pickups that I do in my local parks, I also film a video about 2.5 minutes long every single day where I talk about the different techniques that I've deployed when cleaning up trash in these parks. It's actually a lot more complicated and has far more benefits than I had ever imagined when I started these daily trash pickup missions. Oftentimes people say, like, how are you able to do 1,500 cleanups in a row? And to that I say, I enjoy it. The reason I'm able to do these kinds of things every single day, even when it's 150 degrees or it's pouring down rain or whatnot, is because this is frequently the highlight of my day. I not only get fresh air, I not only get exercise, I also get to learn about my local natural spaces. I get to meet different people that are in my community. I get to meet people from traveling from far away on the other side of the planet to Los Angeles, which is always a great experience. And I get to learn about how the different government entities in my area prioritize the trash situation and the litter situation for facing these natural spaces. It's quite surprising how some county levels are a little bit more serious about protecting the natural areas, whereas the city and the federal government that is very close by, also having jurisdiction, don't really seem to do much. And I've never seen a staff member actually come out and help the situation. So, I post these videos to talk about it and continue my story and share with people how much they're actually missing out on a daily mission. So I recommend all the folks in the audience there, if you can, grab a bucket and help clean up trash. The first couple of weeks, getting into that routine may be a little bit difficult, but eventually you will want to go out every single day and clean up other people's trash. Surprisingly, it is that much fun, and I can't ever imagine myself quitting this mission 5 years down the line.
Have you ever found anything interesting?
I did not hear that.
The question was, have you ever found anything interesting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I find wallets, I find phones, I found passports. As I said before, I find propane tanks and working lighters. As you may very well know, Los Angeles is notorious for seeing significant wildfires. And to see a working lighter in dry brush in the middle of summer is quite nauseating. I think of the most interesting things I found was in the creek bed in the mountains, which is, we're not really near the city. I found one of those floating chlorine dispensers that people have in their backyard, in their pool, in their backyard pool. And it's like, how does that get into the creek up here? Who brought that up here and littered that in the creek? And so, I find all sorts of strange things. I found $50 one time sitting on the ground that someone left behind. I find patio heaters. I find abandoned homeless encampments with tons of bicycles and large piles of trash. And so I have learned to not be surprised by what kind of litter I can find out there, because truly everything.
Any jewelry?
Any jewelry?
Jewelry. Sometimes. One time in particular, I had cleaned up a blue scarf, a very thin blue scarf. It's not jewelry, but about 30 minutes or 60 minutes later on that very hike, someone walked up to me asking if I had found a scarf in the ground. And they were visiting from Austria, and that scarf was very near and dear to them, and they brought them out with it on their hike. They dropped it accidentally, and I found it, put it in my trash bucket, and I retrieved it for them. It was dirty now because it was in my trash bucket, but I can't say I found much jewelry. Oftentimes, this is a very sandy, very rocky area. It's kind of a semi-arid desert, so things get buried pretty quickly if they're stepped on. But yeah, coins, change, wallets, things that people don't want to lose. I'm surprised so much I find them in the parks.
The others?
How does your work currently with the trash pickup when we work towards your climatology degree in the end? Are you going to meld those two together and do something with that, or how's that going to work into your future?
Well, I think that I'm very interested in communicating climate science. I've always been interested in the study of meteorology, like weather and thunderstorms and whatnot. Unfortunately, living in Southern California, I don't really get to experience all that much weather, and I might have a much more fun time in Wheeling. Because of that, I've spent more time looking at the science of climate change, and I've been studying just how much my area has warmed because of climate change, and it's pretty frightening. While climate change is probably the most important environmental crisis that we're facing on the planet, as Zane points out, there are many others. It's not just that the planet is warming, we also have chemicals getting into our waterways. We have trash sitting out in our local parks. We've got trash floating around in all of our oceans, and huge piles of trash the size of Texas floating in the middle of an ocean gyre. So we need to put this most simply, to me, all of our environmental crises are indicative of how much humankind has failed to properly manage our resources. Just like a home or a business or a government manages its resources, we have to do that as a civilization. And so I think that my trash pickups and my degree in climate science and my pursuance of being a climatologist are connected just because they are two of the most important environmental problems we're facing in the world. But the other thing is that my trash pickups kind of back up my voice as a climate activist. People see what I'm doing out there, see that I'm cleaning up trash every day when it's 100 degrees, and know that I'm serious. I'm not just kind of saying stuff online because I think it's fun or I'm trying to get a lot of likes. I really care about these problems, and that is among all the other benefits of cleaning up every day. Another one of them is that it solidifies my voice and makes me seem more serious about this. Good question. Thank you for asking me.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you think that if municipalities and communities did a better job of offering recycling programs to their residents, that it would reduce the amount of waste that you're finding?
I think so. Oftentimes when I'm cleaning up the trails, it's because of hikers. The trash behind is water bottles and candy wrappers. In the park that I clean up in, I'm actually now an employee as in the nature center. Unfortunately, we only have a small jurisdiction that in the actual canyon that belongs to us. The rest of the canyon, where everyone's hiking, is other government jurisdictions, some of which is federal land. And I put out recycling bins. I spray painted huge barrels blue and put out recycling bins that we can start recycling, which I can't believe we weren't really doing in 2023, but it would definitely help. What we really need to do is two things. We need to reduce how much single-use products we buy as a civilization. So often we are buying, when we go to the store, the things we are purchasing are not as recyclable as they once were, like a milk carton. If you take a milk carton to one of those recycling centers where you can turn in your aluminum cans for money, they won't take money for that. But used to, milk cartons were in glass bottles many decades ago, and that is something we need to return to. The other thing to fight back against this is, in my opinion, is to hire people to do the work that needs to be done. We have more trash in our oceans, our rivers, our beaches, our hiking trails, our mountains than ever before in human history. And adding more trash cans or signage isn't going to get rid of the trash that is already out there. So the first step is to hire people, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people nationwide, to clean up these natural spaces. And after that, we can begin to think about how we're going to stop the litter and the municipal waste from entering the natural world. But I keep getting comments every single day of people saying, "Oh, you need to put up signs to say no littering." We have all that, and yet people continue to litter. As you saw in that video, huge piles of trash in areas where cleanup crews wouldn't even expect them to be.
Wow.
Can you talk a bit about the climate marches that were happening a few years ago and your involvement in those?
Yeah, so I think that what happened in 2018 with the rise of Greta Thunberg was incredible because the climate movement kind of shifted away from a conversation of whether or not climate change is real to what are we going to do about it. And that kind of elevation of the conversation was incredible. I was really worried before that happened that we would be stuck debating climate deniers from now until the end of history. But starting in 2018, when all of those big climate marches that were happening in major cities and small towns all around the world were happening, that really inspired me greatly. So I did everything I could to participate in them. We here in Los Angeles were fortunate enough to have Greta Thunberg herself visit during one of our marches in November 2019, and we gave a speech on stage to several hundred people, and that was fantastic. But being there in person and being in a crowd of several thousand people marching through downtown Los Angeles, all saying the exact same thing, that we need to act on this crisis, is something that I kind of wish I would see again. The COVID pandemic kind of stopped all that and interrupted it. We haven't had a big march in quite a few years now. But we need people to do more than just say, we need to act on these environmental crises. We need people acting. Much like Zane, we need people going above and beyond to tell our politicians, the powers that be, that we need to be mindful of our resources on this planet so that future generations can enjoy the resources we have.
Ma'am?
I walk a lot in the woods, and it's amazing what I see.
Yeah, you need to direct it.
Okay, I walk in the woods a lot, and I see a lot of trash, so I'm thinking in my head I might get a hold of my mare and see if I can get the garbage bags and start picking some stuff up and do my part.
I think that might be the best decision of your life.
I mean, it's exercise too, right?
I missed that part, sorry.
It's exercise too, I mean.
Yes, it's exercise. And what I recommend is a 5-gallon bucket. You can buy one at your local Home Depot or Lowe's or hardware store. And that'll last you for years. And you don't have to use a new plastic bag every single time you go out to clean up trash. But it makes part of why I feel like I live in a community more so now, even though I'm in a big city. I meet so many people on the hiking trails. Every single day, I stop and have a conversation with somebody for a couple minutes, a random stranger. And we're going to walk down the trail together and talk to this person. I don't know their name, I don't know their story, I met them for the first time, but we're walking down this trail like we've been lifelong buddies. And I just think that is so valuable. So I think everyone should go out to the local parks as much as they can, every day, every week, a couple times a month, and help clean up trash. Because honestly, I alone can handle my home park, which sees tens of thousands of visitors every single week. There are literally lines of people in the middle of the trail trying to go see the waterfall. I take pictures of it, and people are commenting around the world saying, that looks like Disneyland, that looks like the Santa Monica Pier. Why are there so many people in the middle of this natural area? And that's just how it is on the weekends. But I alone can undo the negligence of all those people, along with a few other volunteers that come on occasion. Really, it's not that difficult. We just need more people to step up and say, I'm not going to complain about $100. I'm not going to get angry at them. I'm just going to go into the natural world with a bag, with some gloves, with some pickers, whatever, and clean up the situation. And I'm going to enjoy it.
Do you ever see syringes and needles?
Question is, do you see syringes, needles?
One time, yes, actually. I was chatting with a park volunteer, and we were, the creek was really elevated that day, and a lot of people were trying to find an alternate route around the creek, and I did find a syringe, but for the most part, no, I don't see that kind of stuff. We tend not to have a lot of, areas where you do see a lot of that stuff is where you have a large homeless population. This park actually burned down 30 years ago in October 1993 from a wildfire that was started by a transient cooking a fire in some forested area. The Santa Ana winds were blowing. The fire was left unattended. It flew into nearby brush, and about 3 or 4 hours later, 150 homes in the neighborhood were destroyed and another 100 were damaged. Thankfully, no one was killed. But the next time we might not be so lucky, and seeing towns like Paradise, California, and Santa Rosa, California, and most recently Lahaina and Maui completely burned to the ground in these forest fires is really frightening, because I can look out my window and see the mountains right there, and if the Santa Anas are blowing, that fire is coming into my neighborhood. And so I think Los Angeles County has done a pretty good job at keeping homeless populations out of natural spaces because of the huge wildfire risk that happens there. And as a result, I don't see as much fires in this particular park.
Will you talk about some of the people you've gotten to meet? I mean, you mentioned Greta, but some of the other people you've gotten to meet through your work and through your activism?
Yeah, well, I've met several JPL scientists. I'm here in Pasadena, which is the home of the NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. A lot of these satellites and the Mars rovers that we have circling Earth and on Mars are controlled at JPL. And so being here is very lucky, because I've gone on hikes with some scientists, and we've talked about the climate crisis and what local areas are doing about it. I've, as I said, met tons of people on the hiking trails. I have little acronyms that I have to think to myself to remember their names, like Stan the Shirtless Man, or Daniel the Dad, or something like that. Or just because I meet so many people so often, and I want to be able to remember their names. But I've met people around the world who have seen what I'm doing in my local park, and have been inspired by that, and have copied me, and are doing the same thing in their area. And there are people in Vancouver Island, up in British Columbia, and New Delhi, India, and in Sydney, Australia, also bringing out their buckets and cleaning up trash every single day, inspired by me. And so to meet all these different people, and in the parks, and online, and through my activism and whatnot, I think is something that everyone needs to do. We, of course, live in a very digital age. Everyone is a little bit less social than they should be, because we're so distracted by all of our social media apps and all of the endless entertainment on our smartphones. But that is yet another reason why I think people should do daily trash pickup, because it's a great way to meet those in your community.
Thanks for what you do.
Yes.
Of course, you're welcome. I love doing it, and if I didn't love doing it, that would not be good. And one thing I would want folks to remember who do go out to help clean up trash is don't let the litter bugs get to you. Don't let it get to you. You don't want to walk away from your cleanup being angry or depressed or stressed out as someone has mistreated the natural area. You have to put those emotions aside, enjoy the natural space, and you will find yourself having so much fun treating your trash pickup like a game of scavenger hunt that when you're going to bed that night, you'll be thinking to yourself, I can't wait to go out again tomorrow. And everyone thanks me for my trash pickups. And I think to myself, you're welcome, but this is fun. I enjoy doing this, and I want you guys to have that feeling as well.
One question, do you recycle any of your stuff that you pick up?
Yes, so I put the glass bottles and the plastic bottles that I find in the recycling bins that I have self-deposited or put out in the park. As to those things, I take those home, I turn them in for money, and then I donate that money to any particular disaster relief that is ongoing at that time. In one example, there was a pretty strong hurricane that hit Mozambique, which is in southern Africa, and I donated the money that I collected from the recycling in the park here in Los Angeles to help feed the people who are recovering from that disaster. Sometimes I'll use it to plant native trees, other times I'll donate it to other causes or charity around the area that have been suffering from wildfires and trying to rebuild. And that always gets people very excited to see that I'm turning the trash in the park, a negative thing, into a positive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Inspiration.
I want to thank Rob. Thank you, Rob, and thanks to Zane. Let's have a round of applause for him again. Go out and write to your government officials and pick up trash.
Thank you, Sean, for doing this.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great series.
I'm going to try to put up your picture with Greta just to establish your credibility.
And thank you, Zane, for all the work you've done.
You're welcome.
Look, there he is. All right. Thanks again. I hope to see everyone at Wheeling Reads Saturday. And come on up and look at some of Zane's paperwork here and his project.
Rob, you make us want to be a better person.
You made us want to be a better person. That's my mom who said that.
That is why I'm here.
All right. Thank you.